cooperation, so to speak, with the art of grant writing, and what we're going to be talking about that here today. Excited to have everybody join it in. Just a little bit of housekeeping. I'll put this in the chat as well as reframe this at the end of our call today. But a few things for you to know if you are joining us or need to leave early or later on, joining us a little bit late. This call will be recorded. This webinar will be recorded, and you guys will get an email copy afterwards. In that email, you'll also get a copy of the slides that are presented here today, as they'll be helpful for you in your consideration going forward. You'll also get some more information about our services. So BW&CO is a grant writing firm. We have these two gentlemen on staff, as well as other individuals on staff, grant writers, administrative support, accounting personnel to help with grant writing, business development, as well as administrative support for business development within Department of Defense, Department of War, and other groups as well. So thanks again for joining us. I'm going to hand it over to Christian, who will take it from here.
All right, thanks, Robert. Appreciate it. Yeah, welcome everybody. Good morning and good afternoon, depending on where you're calling in from. Welcome to another webinar put on by BW&CO. This time about AI and the art of grant writing, as Robert mentioned. Does it help us? Is it hype, or could it potentially be hazardous? Those are the questions we'd like to answer, or at least try to answer today. With me today, I have Dr. Avi, who's one of our senior strategic grant consultants at BW&CO. He has a PhD in mechanical engineering from Caltech and an MD from Tufts University School of Medicine. And so he'll be helping out with this presentation. My name is Chris. I'm the Chief Grants Officer. And with that, let's get started. Let's define the landscape for starters. So, of course, unless you've been living under a rock these last couple of years, you know that LLMs, or large language models, are out there. They have shaken the foundation of how text is created. Everybody's using it. If you're not using it yet, I would highly suggest you jump on board because it's a fantastic tool. But there's also some pitfalls, and so that's what we would like to talk today about. So what is covered? It's a large area to cover. We're not going to cover everything. We'll talk about some possible implications and scenarios for grant writing, obviously, and some tricks of the trade. What we don't talk about is any legal advice. We don't give legal advice. We won't go into details of AI and copyright issues. We'll touch upon that, and anything really outside of grant writing. So we'll keep it controlled to just the grant writing aspects of it. In detail, then, what we're going to talk about, we'll look at the AI-generated versus AI-assisted writing. What's the definition? It's important to know that definition because some granting agencies make that definition or that distinction when judging or reviewing your proposals. So we'll need to know that. We'll make the case for and against AI. Look at the funding organizations, how they view AI. Some detection tools, or rather, are detection tools important? Are they useful? Perhaps some red flags about what grant reviewers, so there's 12 different granting agencies out there, lots of different reviewers, lots of different rules. They're still up and coming. What are they thinking about that? What are some of the red flags? Do they have any, the granting agencies, do they have any policies? We'll touch upon that. Things that may backfire, so something to be cautious of. And then how we at BW&CO use AI, just on a large scale, just touching upon the topics. And then at the very end, we have a quick summary slide of the services that we provide. And of course, references at the very end, so you can read up about all that, which we're talking about here. Going into the AI-generated versus the AI-assisted discussion. There are definitions out there. They're not all the same. This is an evolving field. The definition that I like personally is from the Library of Congress, the Copyright Office in particular. And in it, they sort of distinguish between what is potentially patentable, what text could be patentable, and what is not patentable. And even though your proposals don't need to be patentable, certainly the technology that you're developing could or should be. And so for that reason, it's a good definition to use when we are talking about grant writing, and particularly also because the granting agencies distinguish between what is AI written or AI assisted. And so the general definition of AI generated then, as we all know it, if you have the AI do everything for you. So let's say you create a prompt and you have it create a picture for you, for example, or just a full final article that you put out there. You're asking for it to write a sonnet about grants, if you're so inclined, and that's your final output. Then that would be AI generated. Also AI generated if the AI autonomously generates text with minimal human intervention. That's the key there. For example, you create a draft. Any draft whereby the AI determines the expressive elements. That's an important key that are still present even after minimal human intervention. So even though you change it up, the draft, if at the end expressive elements are still generated or still from the AI, it could still be considered AI generated. Again, we're not giving legal advice here, but those are some of the definitions and nuances. There's a reference mark there at the end. You can take a look at that when you get the slide deck. Versus AI assisted, which is more of what grant reviewers are looking for. For the most part, that's allowed to use AI assisted. And that falls into the category of leveraging AI tools to support the writing rather than having the AI write it. Let's go look at the same example we had a minute ago about generating a preliminary draft. But here the distinction is the AI determined expressive elements are no longer present after human intervention. So you did some magic, you polished it, and afterwards it's no longer the same. It has been changed substantially. And again, the devil's in the details, so be careful with that. Other ways to use AI in the assisted arena is, of course, we all know, enhancing sentence structures like grammar, flow, and readability, suggesting language improvements, different ways to express the same thought, emphasizing a particular writing style, for example, when you lead into the proposal, the summary, the significance, all that could be done in more of a persuasive style. The AI is great at rewriting it in that perspective. The actual innovation, you probably want to talk about in more of a descriptive style, whereas perhaps risk analysis could be done in a more analytical style, etc. I think you get the idea there. Even more important and more interesting for us, the way we use AI at BW&CO is gap analysis, in which we ask the AI to look at the solicitation, the requirements therein, and whether or not the proposal that has been written so far actually meets those requirements, if there's anything missing, or could anything be improved upon. And then we take that feedback and use humans, our writers, to improve upon that and make it an even more solid proposal going forward. So that's a fantastic way to use AI and not get in trouble because, again, humans are actually doing the editing, just assisted by the AI. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Avi.
Thank you, Christian, for that wonderful introduction to AI. Hello, everyone. I'm glad you could join us today for this presentation on an important topic. Clearly, AI use is becoming more and more widespread in almost every field, so grant writing is no exception. One of the things that I would first like to go over is why at all should one consider using AI in the first place? And then we'll go over some of the reasons why we probably shouldn't. So the case for using AI is speed. The AI allows us to write a large volume of grants in a short amount of time. So it increases the efficiency of text production. Text can be produced at a much faster rate and at a much lower cost than before. And even style-wise, the quality is often as high as it is for human writing. The financial incentives of using large language models that are used in AI are significant. And we may soon start regarding manual writing of large texts as being exotic or too expensive. So what is the case against using AI? Anyone who has used AI knows some of the problems associated with it. Perhaps one of the most important issue is that factual content is sometimes incorrect, and human control and intervention are required. We may have encountered situations where AI has introduced fictitious data in the writing and things like that. So these are sometimes referred to as hallucinations. And rightly so, because clearly the AI tool sometimes sees things that you and I probably wouldn't. And the use of AI may also lead to a degradation of human grant writing skills over time. The generated text from AI is sometimes ethically or legally inappropriate or unacceptable. And as you can imagine, that can cause issues for organizations. There are also data security issues, mainly the risk of revealing proprietary data that lead companies to forbid its usage. I've read that companies like Apple, Goldman Sachs, and Samsung do not actually allow the use of AI when they are producing their own documentation. And then finally, the knowledge stored in a large language model is only going to be limited to the date at which the model was trained. And as we all know, AI is a rapidly developing field, and the language models are being updated almost every day. So the content is going to be only as good as the date at which the language model was generated. So how do funding organizations respond to the use of AI? Different organizations have different approaches, and they have issued various guidelines on this. And these guidelines typically address core ethical concerns, whether of using AI. They sometimes require the disclosure of AI use. And then there's also the issue of accountability as to who has written the proposal. Some organizations prohibit AI tools, but the stance on AI-assisted writing varies. For example, NIH, the National Institutes of Health, may not consider proposals substantially developed by AI. And sometimes NIH reviewers are not allowed to use AI tools. Then there are organizations that may require you to declare the purpose and scope of AI use. For example, NSF, National Science Foundation, suggests for submitters to disclose the use of AI, not just disclose, but also reveal the extent to which AI has been used in a proposal. That brings us to the use of AI detection tools. As much as AI has developed recently in terms of writing, so has the use of or development of AI detection tools. But they are not there yet. The use of AI detection tools has limited utility. It's still not perfect. So these tools often struggle with accuracy and bias. They have known tendencies to misclassify human written content as being AI generated. Hence, the sole reliance on detection tools is insufficient for reviewing grant applications, not just for reviewers, but also for grant writers themselves or grant submitting organizations. So having said that, what do reviewers expect to see when they think that they have found a proposal that's been written by AI or polished by AI? There are very definitive red flags, and I will try to categorize these. So there are writing style red flags, where the AI writing often has a distinct texture or pattern, such as repetitive phrasing or over-explanation. AI tends to repeat stuff, restate things, summarize what it has just said, or over-explain obvious points. Then it tends to use generic or vague language. AI sometimes avoids specifics and relies on filler phrases. This is an important area of research. More research is needed, or studies have shown without actually citing any real studies. And then there's the whole issue of flawless but empty prose. AI can generate a lot of fluff. So AI generated text may read smoothly, but feel oddly superficial, like saying a lot without really saying anything. And that's not just poor grammar. And most of us have met people in our lives who do that. They speak a lot and say nothing. So that's the kind of problem that AI can cause. Then there are citation red flags. AI often fabricates or mishandles citations. So what that means is it can it can cite references that don't exist. Those are known as phantom references. So if someone tries to look those citations up, they will not find it in databases like PubMed or Scopus or Google Scholar. So it is necessary to always verify references to make sure they're legitimate. AI can introduce incorrect DOIs, digital object identifiers for electronic text or journal titles. It might assign the wrong journal to a given article or provide incorrect volume, issue, page numbers. So it's necessary to double check all of these details to catch any discrepancies. Then there's the issue of content or logic red flags, perhaps one of the most important areas. AI can struggle with nuanced argumentation. The world of AI tends to be a little bit more black and white and not that much gray. So it struggles in that area. So it can introduce contradictions within the text. For example, it may say one thing in one paragraph, and down the document, it will say something else. So that is a sign of an AI generated content. It can misuse technical terms. It may use jargon incorrectly or awkwardly, and that is another big red flag. And sometimes AI generated documents are overly uniform in their structure. For example, every paragraph may start the same way or follow an oddly rigid pattern. Human writing typically does not do that. Then there are visual or data red flags. So if the manuscript includes figures or tables, AI may sometimes introduce fabricated, generic-looking data. For example, perfectly smooth trends where real-world data would have noise. There would be some randomness. Actual experimentation never produces smooth data. So that's a red flag. Another problem is misleading figure captions. The captions that describe a figure inaccurately or vaguely may be introduced by AI generated content. And then AI can also produce unusual formatting or meta red flags. AI can accidentally leave behind some weird signs. It can cause the introduction of repetitive or similar looking section headers. Sometimes it puts some placeholder text. Look out for text like insert table 1 here that hasn't been replaced with any actual content. So if one is really not careful, things like that get introduced. AI tends to overuse keywords. Then there's the lack of authorial voice or critical analysis. Human writing usually tends to have the logics flow smoothly, but AI can sometimes not handle that well. There's also the overuse of M dash. So in situations where human writing would probably separate sentences with a period or a semicolon that conveys similar ideas, AI tends to put M dash in that place. And you may have seen a lot of this in AI generated text. So the question is, what may backfire if one does use AI for generating proposals? Firstly, it can be a direct policy violation. For example, the National Institutes of Health has a policy against using AI for substantial portions of grant proposals, and applications that are substantially developed by AI may not be considered. So it becomes pointless using an AI tool to generate a proposal and submit it to the NIH. Then there's the issue of plagiarism and fabrication. AI models can plagiarize, they can fabricate information, as we discussed, or present outdated statistics, which can have serious consequences for the integrity of a scientific proposal or any technical document for that matter. Accountability. The applicant is held responsible for any issues with the proposal, regardless of whether an AI tool generated the problematic content or not. Then there is the potential for inaccuracies and lack of context. So AI can easily misunderstand specialized vocabulary, or it may fail to provide the necessary contextual depth that reviewers look for, which will just lead to a weak application. As we discussed before, there are always data privacy and security risks. Submitting sensitive data to an AI platform can violate confidentiality, privacy, or data protection regulations, leading to legal and ethical issues, and that can cause a lot of complications. Some AI tools have consumer plans that provide opt-out settings, but that may not be the default. So inadvertently, confidential data may get released into writing. AI tools used for commercial or work plans do not use data to train their AI systems typically until opted in. So in other words, when using an AI tools, one has to be really careful about the options provided by the tool, what is opted in versus what is opted out. Then, of course, there's the risk of detection. The NIH and other organizations may use AI detection tools to identify AI-generated content. And if that happens, there are penalties. If AI use is detected after an award is granted, the agency may penalize the researcher, and in the case of the NIH, may even refer the matter to the Office of Research Integrity. And that can have some serious long-term consequences for the proposal submitted. So what are the most value-added uses of AI at our company? We can use it to create concise technology descriptions to better match technologies to available grants. So that is one way in which we help our clients to match their technologies to what's out there in terms of grant solicitations. And as Christian mentioned, we also use it for proposal gap analysis. So it enables us to critically look at how the technology and team and proposed R&D align with the requirements of the solicitation. There are some other ways in which we use AI. For example, we use it to generate client-facing code and project flowcharts as we gather data for proposal development. Another thing that is under development is an internal platform that enables government agencies to explore emerging technology trends, identify potential areas for collaboration, and then connect with relevant industry partners to accelerate innovation. So some concluding thoughts. AI can be a useful tool for grant writing, but there's a huge but. One has to check agency policies. Always review the specific policies of the funding agency before submitting a proposal. One needs to understand what is and is not permitted regarding AI use. One has to use AI ethically and responsibly. Be cautious. Focus on tasks like editing for readability and grammar, but perhaps far more important is ensuring that the final content is accurate, original, and well supported by your own work. Maintain human oversight. You are responsible for the proposal's content. Do not rely on AI to generate scientific insights or conclusions. Those must come from you. So with those concluding thoughts, I would like to hand it back to Christian for some final notes.
Thank you, Dr. Avi. Just a quick summary then of our services beyond just writing proposals AI. We have about 50 years of combined experience in grants, leadership, and entrepreneurship. And we delivered tailored strategies on how you could align your technology to different granting agencies. I mentioned earlier, there's about 12 different granting agencies out there. There's lots of different programs, SBRs and BAAs and others that technology might be applicable to, where you have some potential fundings available. We have ways to match your technologies with a bunch of different types of grant opportunities that are out there. We provide end-to-end approach. So of course, writing the proposals, looking forward to the grants first and writing the proposals, but also submitting it for you. Submitting is always a hassle. I'm glad I don't have to do that myself. We have a team for that. And then provide post-submission support as well. So contract negotiations and beyond, if you're interested in that. We also think it's very important to reach out to stakeholders, the technical point of contacts, or the directors of the different agencies, and start communicating. We facilitate in that as well to help out in that regard, to establish rapport. Always very, very important. As I mentioned, we have an expert team that works on the registrations part for you, compliance, and seamless submissions. And and so, yeah, that's about it from that perspective. Here I have another slide just to sort of let you know that Robert is your man. If you would like to know more about us in general, have any questions that we don't get to answering here, you can schedule a 15-minute call with Robert per that link that's provided there. And at the bottom, we just have a summary of Dr. Avi's and my short bio for reference. At the very end, we have the references that we cited earlier throughout the presentation. You're free to look at those as well. And with that, we'll hand over back to Robert.
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys, for the information. It was really helpful. I do have 2 questions in the Q&A. If you are watching this and you have a question, you can use the Q&A function to submit something. We have just a couple of minutes to go over these. Number one, there was a question about when the presentation will be sent and what address it'll be sent to. Whatever address you had on file for signing up for this webinar, it will be sent to that address. And it will be sent within the next 12 to 24 hours once we have everything together and with the recording finalized. And then another question for you, Dr. Avi, is can you give an example of an expressive element when you're describing when and when not to use AI in related items? You mentioned an expressive element. Do you mind giving an example of what that might look like in an application?
So in an application like a proposal, when you're submitting a proposal, there are certain typical phrases that AI uses. And I mentioned a couple of those, like referring to certain studies or things like that. I think that is what you meant. So there are certain expressions that AI uses in a standard format. And so that's basically, I think, what the question is asking.
Okay, great. I don't see any other questions that have come in, but again, you guys are welcome to send anything by email if you have a question. For me, my email is robert@baginskiwegner.com for you guys to send all those questions there. And again, in the chat, you can read through this. If you have a desire to schedule some time to get more insight from our team or use BW&CO services to apply for SBIRs or BAAs that are coming available here soon, feel free to schedule a meeting with me. The slides and the recording of the webinar will be sent out here in the next day. And yeah, I think that's it. So thanks everybody for joining, and we'll see you all again here soon.